Today on the Big 3 in 30, LSU keeps on rolling in the transfer portal.
The number one transfer portal class in the country.
Ohio State has found its next offensive coordinator.
It seems similar to the Matt Patricia hire, where people look at just NFL experience, what happened in the NFL.
And Oregon gets a commitment from a familiar name.
Sam Nada commits as the second Oregon player in the class of 2027.
This is the Big 3 in 30 NBA. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 NBA starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. LSU has landed the top quarterback, offensive lineman, and edge rusher in the transfer portal, putting a lot of hype on Lane Kiffin's first season at the school already. To go over the additions, here's Matt Moscona with Locked On LSU.
LSU landed Jordan Seaton on Friday to polish off the number one transfer portal class in the country. It's been amazing. Even without Jordan Seaton, this would have been an epic haul. But the question I've probably been asked more than other, really two questions. One is, how are they paying for this? Well, if you're an everydayer, thank you. I've addressed that in a previous episode. Would highly recommend YouTube or podcast. You go check that out. The $40 million roster and how LSU afforded it. The other question is, does LSU buying this portal class affect their ability to sustain prosperity in future years? And that's what I want to talk about on this episode. We are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So here's what I want to do over the course of this episode today. I want to explain a few things. Number one, the portal class that LSU has assembled and why this isn't a one-year stopgap, and then the financial ramifications of what they've invested in this portal class and what it means for the future. So let's start, though, if we can, with this portal class. And this is something a lot of people have asked, because when you look at the 42 transfer portal additions for LSU in this cycle, the biggest thing that we've talked about with respect to that is you've gotten guys that are immediate impact guys, undeniable, that are going to help you win right away. However, of the 42 portal additions, 38 of the 42 have multiple years of eligibility remaining. There are only 4 members of this portal cycle that are playing their last year of college football. Ty Benefield, the safety from Boise State, Jace Brown, the receiver from Kansas State, TJ Daugherty, the linebacker from Ole Miss, Prince Willimonmielen, the edge from Ole Miss. And remember, look at the 4 guys you're talking about. The 4 guys you added there that have 1 year of eligibility remaining are proven immediate impact guys. Ty Benefield has more than 200 tackles in his career at Boise State. First team all-conference this past year, plug and play, amazing safety, depending on the service, the number 1 or number 2 safety in the portal. Jace Brown from Kansas State, been a massively impactful receiver. His career has only been limited by a series of injuries during his time at K-State. If he's healthy, he could be your number 1 guy. TJ Daugherty, 98 tackles, led the SEC in tackles in 2025. He comes over with 1 year of eligibility remaining, started his career at Clemson for 2 years, then 2 years at Ole Miss. Now will play his 5th season of college football at LSU. And then Prince Willimonmielen started his career at Nebraska, led Ole Miss this past year with 9 sacks. He will be a plug-and-play starter. And remember, LSU this year, despite Blake Baker's defense and all of the emphasis on pressuring the quarterback, was 69th in the country in sacks per game. They just didn't do a great job of getting home, even with all of the investment in the transfer portal and getting Harold Perkins back from injury, adding guys like Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton, Bernard Gooden on the interior. You just weren't good enough at getting home. You had a guy that led Ole Miss with 9 sacks this last year, which would be more than double your leading sack getter of 2025, which was 4. Yeah, absolutely. And like the 4 guys that you added with 1 year of eligibility remaining are immediate impact guys. Now, let me contrast that, because a lot of people have said, and this is a fair conversation, by the way, a lot of people have argued, Matt, I'm pumping the brake on expectations because LSU had the number 1 portal class a year ago, and they went 7-6. And you are right. That is a fair criticism or a fair reason to pump the brakes. But I think here's the biggest difference when we talk about the portal class from 25 and the portal class of 26, aside from the numbers, right? 42 additions in this portal class. A year ago for 2025, it was 18. But look at all the guys in this class that are 1-year players. Bernard Gooden, plug-and-play 1-year guy. AJ Halsey, 1-year guy. Patrick Payton, 1-year guy. Jack Pyburn, 1-year guy. All of these players, Bauer Sharp, Berrien Brown, Josh Thompson, Jamari Butler is 8. 8 of the 18 you knew coming in. 8 of the 18 only had 1 year of eligibility remaining, right? 8 of the 18. This year of your 42, 4 have 1 year of eligibility remaining. And then remember, on top of the 8 that we just mentioned that only had 1 year of eligibility remaining, Donovan Green hit the portal, Sadir Mitchell hit the portal, Mansour Delane's gone pro, Michael Van Buren hit the portal, Destin Hill hit the portal, Nick Anderson is leaving via the transfer portal as well. So the majority of that portal class, that number 1 portal class from a year ago, were all 1-year guys. You were signing 1-year mercenaries to try to load up behind Garrett Nussmeier as the leading returning passer in college football to try to go all in to win a championship with veteran dudes via the portal that were 1-year plug-and-play guys to go all in 2025, and it didn't work. It's a very different approach with this portal class because you got the 4 guys that have 1 year of eligibility. Make no mistake. There are, and we're going to go through this, there are absolutely players in this portal class that have multiple years of eligibility remaining that will likely only spend 1 year in Baton Rouge. I'm not just talking about players that don't play in transfer, but some guys go to the NFL, and we'll delve into that. But I think ultimately, the most important thing to remember is you load it up with guys with multiple years of eligibility. So by breakdown, here's how it goes. 4 of the 42, 4 have 1 year of eligibility remaining. 16 have 2 years. 15 have 3 years. And then 7 have 4 years of eligibility remaining. Guys that played their freshman year somewhere, redshirted, came to LSU, and have their full allotment of 4 years. So all that to say, you have 31 players in this portal class. 16 guys with 2 years, 15 guys with 3 years. 31 players in this portal class who have played a significant amount of major college football and come to LSU with multiple years of eligibility remaining. That was the key, the crux of this class, to identify guys that had multiple years so you weren't next year at this time rebuilding an entire roster again like you had to in this moment.
The NFL playoffs are rolling along, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a Profit Boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple Profit Boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your Profit Boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback, play, or coaching. Every play feels bigger, and the boost make your bets feel that way too. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep businesses moving, even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and use 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's quo.com/lockedoncollege. You can even keep your existing number for free. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Ohio State has found its next offensive coordinator in former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. Jay Stevens with Locked On Buckeyes tells us what Smith brings to the offense in Columbus.
This hire, man, it came out on Saturday night. I was actually at a basketball game. About to do a video before that game tipped off, and my buddy came over, asked if I heard about the hire. I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm literally in the zone, getting ready for a video and trying to cover a rivalry high school basketball game. I said no, and then got home, did a show after that. And the more I think about Ryan Day hiring Arthur Smith, I begin to think about, well, it seems similar to the Matt Patricia hire, where people look at Patricia's NFL experience, what happened in the NFL, some of the bad things that were said about Patricia before he came to Ohio State, and there are mixed reactions because of that. I think to Arthur Smith, where he was last year in Pittsburgh, and the offense they ran the past couple of years, and the success they had at times, the lack of success at times as well. And I think if people like the NFL experience, that's a valid reason to say, yes, I like this hire. Also, if you look out there and you think, well, maybe this might not be the best fit, you're skeptical about Ryan Day's decision. To me, Mo, that's a valid point too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I would say I'm surprised. Like, I definitely was surprised, and trying to be optimistic or pessimistic, I'm kind of just in the middle as far as I get it. Like, he's an NFL guy. It comes with some NFL experience, but it's almost like he kind of was a failed offensive coordinator. Now, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense per se was that bad, but it's not necessarily, it's the style of offense. It's the slow ground and pound, multiple tight ends, like 2 to 3 tight ends on the field at the same time. And like, when you're an Ohio State fan, you thinking about that old school traditional offense while you got Jeremiah Smith, you still got Brandon Ennis, you got Chris Henry Jr. coming in, you got, a plethora of weapons at the wide receiver position, and you have this expectation of like getting back to an explosive offense. I think with, the firing of, not the firing, I apologize, with Brian Hartline going to USF as the head coach, I feel like Ohio State fans were expecting a splash hire of like somebody that has the potential of unlocking this offense, and a Jeremiah Smith Heisman season loading. Not saying that can't happen under Arthur Smith, but I just feel like there's a lot of doubt if you were on the side of like, this was an opportunity for Ryan Day to say like, I'm going to commit to really a real splash hire. And maybe at the end of the year, we'll look at Arthur Smith as an offensive genius, like we looked at Matt Patricia as a defensive genius. And you put them two together and Ryan Day is CEO and they hoist the national championship. But there's going to be a lot of skepticism up until that point. Like, that's going to have to happen for us to really feel satisfied. Even if it is ground and pound and multiple tight end sets and not really a lot of 100-yard games from a Jeremiah Smith or a Chris Henry Jr., if there's going to be some sacrifice, but it gets us to the national championship and we win, I don't think too many people complain. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know, Jay. I don't know, Jay.
No, man, I don't know either. And as I'm listening to you talk about his philosophy for offense and the type of packages he wants to utilize and how many tight ends he wants on the field, I don't like it. That matches what I've read and what I thought about him previously. I don't like that because that's similar to some of the issues that Ohio State's offense had last year. Too many tight ends are on the field. You don't have your best players on the field when they should be out there. Maybe you could have a situation like last year where you are playing the wrong running backs and you're not maximizing the talent on the field. All that stuff is stuff that happened under Brian Hartline, where you thought maybe it was an inexperienced OC, a guy who he's a first-time play caller, so he doesn't really know what it takes to game plan week after week while also coaching a full position and leading one side of the ball. I don't know. I feel the skepticism, but part of me, I've learned to trust Ryan Day when it comes to hires. And I tried my best, even with Cortez Hankton coming in from LSU. I tried my best to trust Ryan Day. The only real downside is we don't get any offseason football unless it's a spring game to really know what he's going to do. Now, in the spring game, if he rolls out there in 2 or 3 tight end sets and it's a really slow-moving offense and they're not really getting guys involved, fans are going to complain. And I think there's a valid point right there to say, yeah, we're going to complain because this is not what Ohio State's offense should be. But also, he doesn't have to show us anything until the season kicks off Labor Day weekend, which also fans aren't going to like because you want the answers now. And more unfortunately, I wish we had the answers about what the offense is going to look like and how he's going to utilize these players. But, bro, we don't have those answers.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing about it is like, while being optimistic, like, well, with NFL experience, you know, just coming off of being with the Steelers, like he just was around Aaron Rodgers. Like we do know Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. You know, so like he was just around him and Aaron Rodgers spoke well of him. So not everything is bad with Arthur Smith, but like you said, you brought it up before the show, like with the Matt Patricia hire, like this guy was a defensive coordinator and also had won multiple Super Bowls. Yes, he was a failed head coach for the Detroit Lions, but like he had won multiple Super Bowls. It was under the greatest head coach of all time in, you know, the NFL in Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick was a defensive genius and everybody knew it. So learning under that tree, like maybe his style didn't work. And that's what everybody was afraid of when Matt Patricia was like, man, I don't know if this New England Patriots style stuff is going to work at Ohio State. And like more so he came with personality and allowed people to play free. He kind of came totally opposite of what everybody thought of him prior to being hired as the defensive coordinator. So what if this is, you know, I text you and Jeff, and I said, what if this is a chance to him of like revamping his image at the Ohio State University? Like this is an opportunity for me to take all of these playmakers and show that like I can play in a new offense and not that traditional offense in 2 and 3 tight end sets like everybody expects of me. I have a plethora of playmakers. I have an unfair advantage of a way of resources to get playmakers. And so I'm going to do that to catch up and change my philosophy to the modern day way of football. Like that's a possibility too. Like if you're being optimistic, like, and you sit on that side, I feel like that's a valid, like sit and wait opportunity, because what if he does that? Matt Patricia seems like he revamped his entire image by doing what he did with 1 year at Ohio State. So like, what if Arthur Smith does the same thing? Like, I'm just going to revamp my entire image at Ohio State. I could do this. And then I could pick whether I want to be a head coach in college or go back to the NFL. Like this could be for him to have another opportunity back at the NFL, or this could be him trying to get in and be at the college ranks. So, I mean, that's me on the optimistic side though.
Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Oregon got a legacy commitment over the weekend. Haloti Ngata's son Sam committed to Dan Lanning's team, and Spencer McLaughlin tells you what you need to know on Locked On Ducks.
Sam Ngata commits as the second Oregon player in the class of 2027. There are only 2 guys. How many will Oregon take? That's probably a February question here on the show. But he is the son of Haloti Ngata, who is unquestionably, I don't think you could ask anyone who knows any amount of, or let me rephrase that. I don't think you can ask anyone who knows a solid amount about Oregon football and its history who would tell you anything besides Haloti Ngata is one of the best players in the history of Oregon football. If you made an all-decade defense at the time, Haloti Ngata would have been on it. If you made an all-century defense, Haloti Ngata would be on it. If you made a best pro career all-time for the Ducks, Haloti Ngata would be on it. If you made best Duck defense of all time, Haloti Ngata would be on it. So Sam has got some fantastic genes. Now, he is not as highly regarded of a recruit as his dad was. Haloti, by the way, class of 2002, to this day is the 4th highest rated Oregon recruit of all time. Can you tell me who the other 3 are? Little reverse trivia here. I'm going to leave that out there. Honor system. Don't look it up. Come on now. Who are the 3 recruits that are rated higher all time in Oregon history that have committed to the Ducks? Hint, one of them is on the roster right now. But Sam Ngata, outside linebacker / tight end. He plays both for Olympus High School, which is in the Salt Lake City area. He's the number 586 player nationally, a composite 3-star recruit, number 48 linebacker, number 7 player overall in the state of Utah. So I think this is one that makes a bigger splash in the hearts and minds of Oregon fans because of who his father is compared to what his recruiting profile is. But we've also seen highly rated guys not work out, or at least not make an impact right away. And we've seen not as highly rated guys become multi-year starters. I think there are a couple examples of players in the second category. The one I always go to is Marcus Harper. I think Marcus Harper was rated, let's see. We can look up this information really quickly. Marcus Harper was coming out of high school in the class of 2020, the number 714 overall player. 714th. His composite score was slightly lower than Sam Ngata's, and Harper turned into a multi-year starter at guard and was a darn good one as well. So I don't think, I could come on here and tell you, oh man, he's under-recruited. He's underrated. He doesn't have the buzz. Utah is a burgeoning state for high school football talent. I don't think there's been a lack of scouting or that he's been wildly overlooked. I mean, anyone you could argue is, rated a little bit lower than they could be relative to their potential. He's 6'3.5", 215 pounds, according to 24/7. Interestingly enough, the ESPN article on the matter, which was, I think, only written because Haloti Ngata is his father, said he's 6'5", 210 pounds. Now, that's different, 6'5", 210 is Kingston Lopa territory. 6'3.5", 215 is put on 20 pounds and become bigger Bryce Betcher. By the way, what was he rated coming out of high school? Not particularly high. But the other schools that were heaviest after him, you had BYU, Cal. This is I didn't even think about this until I'm recording this segment. This would be the first instance of a recruit picking Dan Lanning over Tosh Lupoi. Now, the legacy component there has to play a pretty solid factor, but he's just the second player in the class of 2027, along with 4-star edge Cam Pritchett, who's a much higher rated guy. I would guess, just off the top of my head, Oregon takes 20 plus or minus 3 players in this 2027 cycle. I think it's just kind of where things have gotten. Maybe with all the departures from this last year's team and that exodus that took place, maybe that number ticks up closer to the 25-27 range. We'll just have to wait and see. There is also a prediction from Rivals for Oregon to land 4-star wide receiver Dakota Gurrant, Guerrant. He's a top 50 player in the 24/7 composite ranking. So that's a name to watch as the week goes along. But, Ngata on film, I again, as I mentioned, don't think that this is necessarily a situation of where I watch this tape and go, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is rated so low. No, I mean, he looks like usually the best player on the field when he plays. Utah, again, growing state for high school football, but it's not at the same level of a California, a Texas, a Florida. I think it's kind of close to Washington right now, which is a good state for it. I think Arizona is probably a touch above those two states for high school talent as well. So I think that probably factors into his ranking a little bit. And, he's listed actually as an outside linebacker, OLB. And typically when you see that positional designation, you think of a guy like Mateo Uiagalelei, who, if Ngata is as tall as the ESPN article says, 6'5", well, that's how tall Mateo is, but Mateo's got 60 pounds on Sam Ngata. But when you watch his highlight reel, he's playing mostly at the second level. And I don't know that he's got the high-end speed to drop some weight and go back and play safety. But it's kind of interesting schematically when you look at where he lines up. He lines up a lot as an off-ball linebacker, but he kind of lines up way away from the other linebackers in the defensive formation. I think that's a testament to his versatility, but he's got good instincts, very technically sound player. What stood out most to me watching his highlight reel is how effective he is as a blitzer, because he has such long arms. I mean, the first thing that stands out is he's not that hard to identify on the tape. Obviously, you watch huddle highlights and the arrow points to him and you see who he is. But he stands out because he's just so much taller than everybody else. I mean, the height and the length can be a real weapon in coverage. Now, is he as, explosive as an athlete as, say, a Nasir Wyatt coming off the edge? No. Or a Mateo? No. I don't think that he is. That's why he plays probably at the second level. But definitely a guy that I can see getting worked into the fold. And you can't teach length. You cannot teach length and height. And he's either 6'3.5" or 6'5". That's pretty stark difference there. Not really sure who's correct. I haven't met him in person and measured him myself, but I'll get right on it for you guys. But definitely a kind of unique body type with that sort of frame, whichever height is accurate, frankly, compared to the other backers that Oregon has. But yeah, pretty technically sound player, which you'd expect being the son of an NFL great and Oregon great like Haloti Ngata. And he's the second member of Oregon's 2027 recruiting class, which is indeed going to be a heavily discussed topic here on the show. Leave your thoughts and I just want to throw out as well, I'm always here for the legacy recruits. I'm a sucker for nostalgia, and not every single legacy recruit. Kai Wheaton's at Oregon State, but now you've got Achilles Smith Jr., you've got Sam Ngata as well. I think in addition to him being someone that could potentially contribute and be a good football player for the Ducks, it just kind of fosters that connection with the old-time fans. I bet the old-time fans appreciate a move like this a lot. But BYU, Cal, Michigan, Nebraska, pretty solid cadre of schools that were going after him. That's always a marker in my head for how good a guy really is or what his potential is. Who did you beat out? That's a good list of schools. Not the best that Oregon goes after, but certainly a guy that I think can become a starter one day. So leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, however you want to get in touch. He also plays tight end. Maybe he could sprinkle in a little tight end work there.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and the NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA or the Big 3 in 30 NFL, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning into the Big 3 in 30 College.